So today we will build a voice in the polygrid, very much inspired by the Make Noise DPO complex oscillator Eurorack module. This is what the result sounds like. As always, I added the ideas from this video to the PDF of tips and tricks I keep on updating. It's available on my Patreon together with the project file from this video and from many other videos. So let's start with the basic setup. On the DPO, we have two oscillators, A and B. They interact with one another in different ways. The first oscillator can generate a triangle wave, a saw wave, and a sine. So in Bitwig, we will use three lookup shapes. So we'll use a triangle, right, a saw, and a sine. And we need a way to drive them or scan through them. This we can do with the phasor module, right? This will scan through those wave shapes. And the second oscillator has also a sine, then it has a square or a pulse, and it has a so-called final output, which is basically a processed sine wave that has wave shaping, right, shape and angle, and also wave folding. So again, in Bitwig, we will use three lookup modules. So we will use again a sine, then a pulse, and then another sine. Again, use a phasor to drive them, right? 1, 2, and 3. And then for the sine, for the wave shaping, we will add first actually a wave folder, and then also phase processors to have some wave shaping, and this we will do with formant, right? It will come before the sine wave because again we are processing the phase. So formant and skew, right? So now if we look at this on the scope, right, let's connect this, right? We have a sine that we can then wavefold, but we can also wave shape again with the formant and with the skew. And of course, this all works in tandem, so we can wavefold and change the wave shape as well, just like on the DPO. Now actually the wave folder on the DPO is a bit more unique than just a wave folder. When it's fully closed, it will not let any audio through, so we can use this as a volume plus timbre control, and it even has a strike input that will ping the wave folder. So again, in Bitwig, we will send the wave folder through an attenuator first. Let's do this here. Right, for now we'll take it all the way down. And then we will use an external controller with the value module. Let's put this here, for example. And we will use the modulator out to map this to both the wave folder and the attenuation. But now it will already fold right at the beginning. So even before we have a louder sound, you see it's already folding things. Right, let me also send this to the output here. Right, so even when the level is down, we already have wave folding, but we can change the curve of the mapping. So for example, of the attenuation, let me open the inspector here. So the attenuation we will change here to logarithmic. And for the wave folding, we will use exponential, right? So you just do this here in the inspector. I'm going to close it now. And now we will first get level changes before it starts folding, right? You can see this also on the scope. You see we have a sine, sine, sine. And just then it starts to fold. And we can even add now the strike input with an AD envelope. Map it to the value control here. Maybe even disable the trigger precord so we have more control when to strike it. And for now, we'll just use a trigger module to trigger it. Right, attack all the way down, decay maybe about 70 milliseconds, 63 let's say. Right, and we have the strike input. Now already an interesting thing about the DPO is that the sine waves of both oscillators are internally routed to the FM input. So VCOA will modulate VCOB and VCOB will modulate or will be internally connected to the FM of VCOA. And of course, this can give all sorts of interesting results. So again, in Bitwig, we can use the sine output of VCOA to modulate the pitch of phasor B and the sine of VCOB to control the pitch. Of course, we cannot connect it directly because this creates a feedback loop. So we're going to need the long delay, set it to the shortest delay time, and then make the connection, right? Because this creates a feedback loop, right? So again, if now we listen to the final output here before the wave folding, we can start adding frequency modulation and even cross modulating them. Right, and add some wave folding. Right, so we can really control here the timbre. And on the DPO, we also have linear FM, not just exponential, which is a bit more stable pitch-wise, and it's also pre-routed with both VCOs. So again, in Bitwig, we can add an attenuator for each of the sine waves, right? So here, let's have this here, for example, this will be sine wave A, and another one for sine wave B. And then again, for phase modulation, so it's a bit more stable pitch-wise, we can use the shift module for each of the phasors and then map the sine waves to the opposite VCO, right? So here we have VCOA will be modulating the shift of VCOB, and then VCOB will be modulating the shift of VCOA. So we have now also cross phase modulation. Let's listen to this again. Right, so again, it's a bit more stable pitch-wise, unlike exponential FM. Listen to this. Now, another interesting internal connection is the sine of VCOA to modulate the shaping and wave folding, right? So the shape, the angle, how it's called here, and the wave folding. So again, in Bitwig, we need another attenuator. This will be the sine of VCOA. Again, use a modulator out so we can map this, right? Maybe close it all the way for a second. And then duplicate this so we have it 3 times, right? Once we will have this for the formant, once for the skew, and once for the wave folding, and again with this value here, right? So now if I add this a bit, right? So now sine A will modulate the formant, or the skew, or the wave folding, or all 3 of them. Right, and really create all sorts of textures and sounds. And now let me show you the final example. So this is the final patch. It's a bit more organized, as you can see. I added also macro controls for everything, so you can control things without even opening the patch, right, directly from the controllers. And first of all, what I added here is I added an envelope so we can play this voice with clips and program sequences. I just have a simple sequence running. And I added also a mixer, as you can see here. So we have the ability to mix the different waves. So for example, here we have everything that has to do with VCOA. So I can add, for example, the triangle. Right, and here we have VCOB. So I can use, for example, the final output. Right, and again we have wave folding. For example, I can detune VCOA. Right, maybe even take it an octave down. Right, I can change the wave shape again, adding folding. Right, or the how it's called in the DPO shape and angle. Right, I even added a sequencer to control or to trigger the strike of the folder. Right, so if I take the folder all the way down, Again, we don't get, let me take the triangle also out. We don't get any sound. Again, as we've seen before, the folder is also a level control, right? And I have here a sequence that I can then control the strike. So I can strike the wave folder, but it will do something even more. It will also have velocity. So according to the different levels here, it will have also different amounts of folding. So I can just randomize this. Right? So we have sorts of accents, if you will. Right, and of course I can change the length here. Let's say 15 or let's say 10 steps. Right, something like this. And again, the levels will also control the amount of folding. Right, I can add also the pulse, let's say, from VCOB. Right, and then have cross FM. Right, so here we have FMB or FMA. And I added also sync control, so I can sync A to B. Right, and then FM is much more stable. Or I can sync B to A. Right, so we can really also sync the oscillators, and just like on the DPO, I can have also VCOA running as an LFO. Right, so if I take it out of the mix, I have here a LFO, I just click this, and now oscillator A or VCOA is an LFO, so if I add FM, right, I can control the rate. Right, and create all sorts of weird sounds. Right, of course we have, let me bring this back for a second. Right, an octave down, we have also phase modulation. Again, even with cross phase modulation, again with syncing things. Right, creating all sorts of different textures. Right, I added also the shape modulation controls. Again, they are pre-routed from oscillator A. Let me close this. You know what, let me remove this for a second. Right, and now I can add shape modulation. Right, maybe even another octave down. Right, or maybe not, maybe this one. Right, and then angle, and even folding. Some phase modulation. Right, so again, you can control everything here from the controls. Here we have the controls for the envelope, and I also added effects. Right, so we have here a chorus and a filter. So for example, let me bring this back. Right, I can add chorus. And also here I added chorus modulation, again routed from VCOA. So this is audio rate modulation. Then we have a high pass going to a low pass, right, with sweep, that's some resonance, with some drive. And the drive also takes the level down, so you get more or less the same volume. Right, and also here I routed VCOA to the filter, so we have a full synthesizer basically. Right, with lots of modulation. I added also panning modulation. This will control the filters and also speed. Right, so you can also have some panning. And again, this will control the filters through sweep here with the built-in LFO. something like this. Let me add some external effects also. They are not in the preset, but just delay and reverb. So we have something nicer. Right, and of course we can also modulate things also within the controls here. So for example, I have here on the track itself, I have the filter key, or the key tracking, sorry, that I'm going to use to modulate the filter. Right, so the filter will also key track. And I can also add some random modulation to it. Right, so we can also modulate things again without even looking at the patch. Right, just everything from the controls. Right, I have here another example, bass, right, with the same patch. Sort of a bass, also with modulation, as you can see. Right, and again, it's exactly the same setup. Then we have some noise, as you can see, with FM, cross phase modulation. Right, if I solo this. Right, noise with movement, again with the same setup. And also a lead sound. Some drums. Right, and that was it. Again, I uploaded this preset and the project file to my Patreon if you are interested and would like to support the channel. I hope you enjoyed this video. Cheers!